with the due respect to Justice Chigumba, that is the dumbest thing that she has ever said.
Gone are the days of politics of rancor, acrimony, violence, hate, and intolerance.
Kana ukarota nyika ino isingatongwi neZANU-PF mukaubike doro.
I'm not going to accept this. I'm not going to watch people rigging elections while we're sitting here.
Chinokanganiswa nenjere muviri ndivo unoripa njere dzikava shoma muviri mutoro wakura chinokanganiswa nenjere muviri ndivo unoripa.
Thank you very much, President of the MDCT, for joining us on this session. Now, you've been in the news over the past few weeks as you went to meet President Emmerson Mnangagwa at State House. Can you just shed light what that meeting was about?
Oh, thank you very much. The background to the meeting is that the MDCT has chosen the strategy of dialogue as its principal political strategy. We had our strategic meeting at Mavazua some time ago, I think about 2 months ago, and then at that meeting we agreed that we will pursue dialogue. I was specifically mandated together with a technical team to come up with a position paper on dialogue, and that I should communicate this position paper to the President and to ZANU-PF mostly. So we requested a courtesy call, to make a courtesy call to the President in my capacity as the leader of the opposition. In other words, I'm slightly different from other opposition political leaders, in the sense that besides being the president of my political party, I am the leader of the opposition in Parliament. And I needed to do a courtesy call on the President. So I was given a slot on Friday the 11th at 9:30 at State House, and I went there for two purposes. One, to do a courtesy call. The second one was to deliver our position paper, formally deliver our position paper to the President. And we were able to do that. I was able to do that very, very well. And I was happy with the response that I got from the President, who was in the company of his deputy, General Chiwenga. And the response was that they had seen our proposals and that they were going to respond to these proposals, and then we take it from there.
When are you likely to get this response?
I am not very sure, but there was a sense of urgency in the discussions, so I am expecting it in a very short while. My paper was not too long. It was about 2.5 pages, very summarized, because in those documents you are not dealing with substantive issues. Mostly you are dealing with procedural issues. Substantive issues will come once the dialogue has started. So we are expecting the response from the President and his party. And I was very happy that his approach was that he is going to respond to the points that we have raised in writing as well. and that was encouraging to us.
You have walked this road before of negotiating with ZANU-PF, and you were dribbled in the past.
I don't think so. I don't think dribbled is the correct thing to say. We negotiated with the ZANU-PF in Kopak. I don't think we lost there. We have won some, we have lost some. The nature of dialogue, the nature of discussions, the nature of negotiations is that a good negotiation must culminate in what we call a win-win situation. And MDC has won quite a lot of things from dialogue in the past, and the Constitution is one of them. ZANU-PF has also won a few things as a result of negotiation. A good negotiation must culminate in a win-win situation.
The Constitution you talk about is the one that has been amended 26 times in one go? That's what you want?
Certainly not. The Constitution was amended on 2 occasions, Amendment number 1, Amendment number 2. Of course, within that amendment, there are sub-amendments. But if you look at the substance of the amendments, if we go mostly to Amendment number 2, there are only 2 offensive provisions. The provision dealing with the judges, the extension of the term from 70 years to 75, and then the provision dealing with removal of the running mate. Those are the offensive amendments, and we do not support them, and we are on record that these amendments are bad for our democracy.
But you voted for them.
But there were other things within that amendment.
But you voted for what you don't agree.
There were other things within that amendment for the women's quota. We voted for the women's quota.
You voted for all of them.
The women's quota, the youth quota, devolution, and the women's quota in council. The tragedy of our system, blessed, is that when it comes to voting, you vote either yes or no. If you vote yes, it's voting yes to everything. If you vote no, you vote no to everything. Now, the MDC was reduced to make a value judgment. What do? There is the women's quota. 52% of this nation are women, previously marginalized. They have gained something incrementally by the 60 seats. Do we throw that away? The youth quota. Our mantra is that the youth are leaders of today, not leaders of tomorrow. Do we throw that away? So there was a value judgment to be made. And
the value judgment allowed you to throw away the independence of the judiciary and the running mate, so that you defend 60 seats of the women.
So that we defend the women's quota,
which is protected by the Constitution, by the way.
So that we defend the youth quota. By the way, the women's quota was coming to an end in 2023. And what this amendment does is that it extends the women's quota. Now, in the absence of a 50-50 provision, that is the next best thing. Now, people have argued that it's better to throw away women's issues and save these 5 years additional for the judges. For me, to tell you the truth, I see no difference between a judge who is 70 and a judge who is 75. And I think the women's issues are more important than an extension of a term by 5 years.
If you feel so passionately about the women's quota, why didn't you just push for the implementation of the Constitution which envisaged, which provides for the 50-50?
No. The 50-50 provisions in the Constitution are merely aspirational. That's the tragedy of our Constitution. But the concrete things that women can touch, the tangible things, are the 60 seats, the quota for women.
You are the president of the MDC.
Because of the quota, because of the treacherous nature of our politics, we thought it was important to introduce the quota. That is what the women gained after making so much effort in 2013 in the constitution making process.
But they don't want that.
To throw it away.
But the women have been resisting that. I spoke to WISPU, I spoke to your vice president, Dr. Thokozani Kupe, I spoke to your secretary general. They don't want that.
Well,
they want 50-50 as espoused in the constitution.
I agree. 50-50 is the best thing that we should do. But in the absence of 50-50, the quota for women is the next best thing.
Is it not the best thing for men?
Unfortunately, at this point in time, the only thing that was available was the 60 seats. It was not the 50-50. So after failing to get the 50-50, we should not have thrown away the 60 seats. Now, the most of the people who voted in the parliament were women. So the average parliamentarian, the average parliamentarian woman favors a quota for women. Yes, you do have women, the vice president of the MDC, Dr. Coupe, the secretary general, don't agree with that. But they are not average women. They are in a privileged position. The average woman favors the quota for women as the next best thing in the absence of a 50-50.
Don't you think,
and I think they were correct.
Don't you think that those 60 seats protect your hegemony as men? Because you now say women have 60 seats, we'll get the rest.
No. If you read the constitution correctly, the availability of the 60 seats does not preclude women from getting seats under the other system, the first past the post system. And we have a number of outstanding women who have braved it out in the constituencies and they've won. So we encourage women still, if in spite of the 60 seats, we encourage women and we encourage political parties to make sure that there is advancement of women even on the constituency seats.
Some say you have passionately defended this because you have been given something by ZANU-PF.
I am a constitution maker. I was part of the drafting of the constitution which provided for 60 seats for the women. And this was in response.
You are the one who gave it 10 years.
It was in response, yes.
So what made you change?
It was in response to the strong lobby that the women had made. We thought that by the end of 10 years, the political system that was so inimical to women participation would have changed. The political conditions would be more conducive. But the reality is that the political conditions have not changed. That's the reality. And we do not foresee them changing in the next 2 years when we get to 2023. Now, it is better to extend this by another 10 years so that we do not lose out on the incremental gain that we have made towards women participation. And I want to reiterate, in the absence of 50-50, the women's quota is the next best thing.
I want to take you back to your discussions with the president. Is this not a thank you for allowing ZANU-PF to amend the constitution?
Certainly not. I did not do the president a favor in any way.
If there wasn't you, that bill would not have passed.
Well, no, that's not correct.
That is very correct.
That
and
is
actually,
not,
the figures show that
is
in
not,
Senate, if your 4 MPs had not voted, they needed 2 from you. You gave them 4.
That's not correct, Blessed, as a matter of fact. ZANU-PF has 56 senators. They need 54. And by the way, when people are looking
are you donating the chiefs to them?
Of course, chiefs have traditionally voted ZANU-PF.
You said ZANU-PF has 56. So you are saying the chiefs are ZANU-PF right now.
What we are saying is that traditionally, the chiefs have voted with ZANU-PF, and it's a matter of historic record. We have the 2 seats reserved for the disabled. Again, the truth of the matter is that because of their vulnerability, they have tended to vote with ZANU-PF. So without the MDCT, the ZANU-PF can still achieve the majority. Now, what people who are saying that we donated are saying, they are looking at the ZANU-PF pure ZANU-PF MP, they are forgetting the chiefs, they are forgetting the disabled. And the issue we are saying is that ZANU-PF can still win without us.
So why did you vote with them if they could still win without you?
We did not vote for
You
ZANU.
did.
We did not vote for ZANU-PF.
You voted with them.
We voted for the women's quota, for the
And
youth
judges,
quota.
and the judges.
We
and the
voted.
running mate.
We voted for the women's quota, the youth quota, devolution.
The record will show, Senator Mwonzora, that you voted for judges. The record will show.
Unfortunately, when the vote is happening, you vote yes for everything, no for everything. Now the value judgment is there are 6 issues. 4 favor the MDC or find favor with the MDC. 2 do not. Now, you have empowering provisions and you have power provisions. The running mate and the judges are power provisions. The women's quota, the youth quota are empowering provisions. Which one do you vote for? That is a matter of value judgment. The MDC, in its wisdom, and we don't regret it, voted for the women's quota, voted for the youth quota, and voted for devolution. Unfortunately, because of the nature of the voting, they ended up voting for everything. Now, if we had voted no, we would have voted no to running mate, which is good,
and you still
to judges, which is good.
So what's the issue?
The MDC would have voted no to women's quota, to youth quota, and to devolution. That is an MDC. We stand for those.
But you voted no.
Yes, I voted no.
So you are an MDC.
I voted no because I did not.
Can you answer that question?
I did not agree.
Are you an MDC? Because you voted no.
Right. Let me explain to you this way. What there are 2 things I didn't do as the leader of the MDC, and it was to whip. And
Because you had benefited.
I allowed people to vote using their conscience, because this was not a particularly typical amendment to whip people. So people voted using their conscience. ZANU-PF whipped. I don't mind that. Whipping is undemocratic. And if I had whipped, I was going to whip people against their own gender. And that was unfair. We voted for the women's quota as a collective. We voted for the women's quota. Never mind how I voted. I voted no, but the majority voted yes.
You said if you had voted no, the bill was still going to pass. So why did you really not whip your people to put a stand on what you disagreed, knowing fully well that it still passed if it was going to pass?
What is surprising, Blessed, is that people who purport to be democratic want to push this issue of whipping people. They don't want the MPs to exercise democratic right to free choice. And I find that a grave contradiction. Alex Magaisa, Ruhanya, even Nelson Chamisa, Tendai Biti purport to be Democrats. And they are pushing for whipping, which is inherently undemocratic.
Because aren't you the same?
Because they are pushing for whipping because they want a particular outcome. I thought because we were dealing with women, because we were dealing with the youth, because we were dealing with marginalized groups who had gained something incrementally, we should allow them to vote and defend their interests. And people ask me to whip. I refuse to whip people under those circumstances. It is inherently undemocratic.
But you have acted in an undemocratic manner. You have withdrawn members of parliament because they chose, in your split with Nelson Chamisa, to side with Nelson Chamisa.
Now, our constitution...
They exercised their free will.
Our constitution...
Yes.
Our constitution of the MDC allows people to exercise their free will. In other words, people can leave the MDC. They have the right to associate, they have the right to dissociate. But they knew that the MDC had a constitution, and that constitution had Article 5.10. And Article 5.10 says, if you join another political party, then you cease to be a member of the MDCT. Now, what Tendai Biti, Nelson Chamisa, and the other lawyers within their formation did was to ask the MPs to sign affidavits declaring that they were no longer members of the MDCT. Now, when they were doing that, and these are lawyers, they knew that there were consequences. One of the consequences is that we will withdraw our mandate. You went to Parliament because you were a member of the MDCT. We will withdraw you from that Parliament, but democracy is not lost if we do that, because there is still a by-election. You can still face the electorate and they can elect you. But once you dissociate from our party, you have exercised the freedom to dissociate.
You're not a different party.
That is the problem.
Are you a different party? You're just the same party with different factions.
No.
You have the same roots. You all purport to be pushing the agenda of Tsvangirai. You all purport to be Democrats.
No. The MDC alliance was not a political party as we now know. It was a group of political parties with the MDCT.
When you say as we now know, what do you mean?
Because there are court judgments now. It's a settled matter.
There's no judgment that says MDC alliance is not a political party?
It is there.
None whatsoever.
It is there, Mr.
It says it's not a judicial person. It doesn't say it's not a political party.
Yes, there is a judgment which says that.
Who passed this judgment?
And if you look at the judgment by Justice Kwenda, and I think there was another judgment subsequent to the judgment that was made by Justice Chitapi, the one that you are referring to. The MDC alliance is not a political party in the sense that we know a political party.
But you said you're going to contest elections as MDC alliance.
It is a political organization, right? Different from the MDCT. What the Supreme Court did was it defined the leadership issue within the MDCT, which were at that point in time was being headed by Nelson Chamisa, and it divested him of the leadership. He went on and declared that they had formed a party called the MDC Alliance Party. David Coulthard said it, Charlton Wende said it, and in their court papers they then said it. They then made a constitution for the MDC Alliance Party in 2020. And the courts have found that this was a constitution made after the Supreme Court judgment. So yes, there was a constitution of a new political party made in 2020. That political party is not the MDCT. And we have not quarreled with that. We have said they are free to pursue their own political parties. But if they they divest themselves of the membership of the MDCT.
But you have been quoted as saying that if by-elections are going to be called for, you're going to contest as MDC Alliance.
Well, the MDC Alliance is established in terms of the alliance agreement signed on the 5th of August 2017. Morgan Tsvangirai was one of the signatories, Tendai Biti, Walshman Ngube, etc. And the alliance agreement is clear to say that the main political party is the MDCT. Whoever is the leader of the MDCT heads the alliance.
No, but it doesn't say that.
It says that.
It absolutely doesn't say that. It says, it names Morgan Tsvangirai as the leader, by name, not by party. And it further goes, because I've read it, and it further goes on to say that if Morgan Tsvangirai for any reason does not, fails to become the candidate or the leader of that alliance, the principals sitting will choose. That's what it says.
Certainly,
and it is clear.
Certainly not.
I will pull that extract for you.
Mr. Mkhiana,
yes.
There's no purpose served by arguing about something which is in black and white. Let's not consume time on that. Our reading of the alliance agreement is as I've said. And the MDC alliance that was formed as a result of the alliance agreement is the MDC alliance we talk about. We don't talk about the MDC alliance party that was formed after the 2018 elections. That's not what we talk about. For example, the one we have a choice. We have a choice to contest
so can I ask this question? Tendai Biti, who's a member of that alliance, is not with you. Washman Ngube, who's signed that alliance, is not with you. Jacob Ngarivume, who signed that alliance, is not with you. So if you contest as MDC alliance, who will you be in alliance with?
Well, but Blessed, you know that Tendai Biti is not the leader of PDP. You now know that.
But he's the one who signed that agreement.
It doesn't matter.
So it basically means that that agreement is null and void because it was signed by the wrong person.
The fact that you signed the agreement does not mean that you are the only one who benefits from the agreement. For example, Tsvangirai, who is no longer with us, signed the agreement because at that point in time, he was the leader of the MDCT.
Yes.
Tendai Biti signed the agreement because at that point in time, he was the leader of PDP.
Now, who is the leader of
PDP? Tsvangirai, lost the MDC leadership by virtue of him passing away. Tendai Biti lost the leadership of the PDP in September 2018, when he was ousted from leadership, and the leader is Lucia Matibenga. And Lucia Matibenga was able to withdraw Tendai Biti from parliament. Now, the MDC alliance has got seven political parties.
That matter has been settled in court. In fact, I saw a letter from the speaker acknowledging the judgment of the court, saying that only they should go back to court and undo what the speaker had done. And he acknowledges the judgment that the person who withdrew Tendai Biti is not.
The fact that, Blessed, that the speaker has referred the matter to court contradicts what you are saying, that the matter is settled. The speaker is referring it to court so that it can be settled. You can't say the matter is settled
between the speaker
and therefore it must go to court. It goes to court to be adjudicated upon. Now, Tendai Biti leadership of the PDP is being contested, as you say. The MDC alliance has got 7 political parties. You have given me an example of 3 political parties out of 7. And of those 3, one political party's leadership, you are saying it's Tendai Biti, I'm saying it is Lucia Matibenga. It's open to question. The majority of the members of the MDC alliance are with us. 3 out of 7 is not a majority. 4 out of 7 is a majority.
So you've got the other 3?
Of course.
Because you are the 4th?
Of course.
I've spoken to the others, and they will be coming on the show. They are unhappy with you.
Well, you say you have discussed with them. I have discussed with them as well. And they have said to something different, totally different from what you are saying they said to you. When they said it to you, as you say, I wasn't there. And therefore I'm unable to confirm the veracity of what you are saying so on.
So if 3 move out, do you still maintain an MDC alliance party?
Sorry?
If 3, let's say you have the other 3 and 3 move out.
You mean if 4 remain and 3 move away?
Yes.
Of course. The alliance remains.
Is that what your pact says?
Of course. What does it say? Does it say anything to the contrary?
Now I'm asking you.
Yes, I'm telling you that's what it says. These things work on the basis of majority. Now, if 3 out of 4, if 3 out of 7 contradict with 4 out of 7, whose decision carries the day? It is the decision of the 4 out of the 7.
So you will be.
But what is the reality of the situation?
So you are still in alliance with the other 4.
The reality of the situation, Mr. Mhlanga, is that 5 out of 7 members of the MDC alliance are still with MDC alliance.
But
about Jacob
Mwonzora.
Ngaruvume. I have not heard him say what you are saying. I have heard him say something to the contrary.
But aren't you fetching this because Tendai signed an agreement with Morgan Tsvangirai. Lucia Matuenga signed an agreement with the Joyce Mjuri. I mean, this is there, black and white. How does she have two alliances in the same election?
Now, if you look at the MDCT saga and the Supreme Court, you will find that there is a discussion about the two congresses, one held by Thokozani Kupe, the one held by by Nelson Chamisa, and the gravamen of the case is that those were factions of one political party. There is no question that Lucia Matibenga and Tendai Biti were factions of one political party.
And where was it decided?
What
for the MDCT?
If you could give me opportunity,
yes, I will.
what matters is the institution called PDP. Who is its leader is the most important thing right now.
Where was that
when
decided?
Tendai Biti
Where was that decided?
When Tendai Biti signed, he was not signing in his capacity as Tendai. He was signing in his capacity as the leader of PDP on behalf of the organization.
Let us go to the other issues. We have been reading and hearing that there is some disgruntlement in your political party that you lead. You and your vice president, Thokozani Kupe, and a clique behind her are unhappy with you.
I have no knowledge of these averments. I read about them on social media. There is nothing official. Last Wednesday, we had a standing committee. None of these issues came up. And also, when I went to the State House before, I went there as soon as I got the invitation. The first person I talked to was Dr. Kupe about the invitation, and we agreed on the approach that I was going to take when I got there. And we agreed that I would feed them back. Then Engineer Mzuri, we talked as well. Senator Komichi, we talked about my visit to the State House. Now, what happens there is that when there are certain levels of leadership where certain information gets to first, is the fact of life in organizations. And this particular invitation, I confined it to the Presidium, the Secretary General included. That the invitation had come at last, and that I was going to take an opportunity to make that presentation, and the rest of the leadership, we were to inform them as soon as I came out of the State House, and that's what I proceeded to do.
Is it not weird that when you went to State House, you met President Emmerson Mnangagwa with his deputy? But you went by yourself?
I did not go to State House by myself, Blessed. I went to the State House in the company of the technical team. We had two members of the technical team. One is a lawyer, the other one is a researcher. These are the gentlemen who had helped in the crafting of that document. So I wasn't alone in the sense that people have talked about. But the reality of the situation was that all the members of the Presidium were away on parliamentary business. And Dr. Kupe was actually in Blawe on parliamentary business. Senator Komichi was away in Zishawane on parliamentary business. And Engineer Mzuri was unable to accompany me.
Why?
He was unable. He told me that he's unable to come. But I did extend the invitation to him. Now, it is very difficult to secure appointments of this nature, and once your turn comes, it's difficult. I couldn't postpone it, especially when I had clarity on what we were supposed to do. Yes, President Mnangagwa was in the company of Vice President Chiwenga, and there's nothing to be read about that. My Presidium was in the know, and they contributed to the agenda actually.
But they have not seen the document you have given to the president.
That's not correct. That's not correct. This document was crafted 2 months ago. And this document was made available to the leadership. And they do have it. I know that there are certain leaders who wanted a document from you. Because there was false information that we had given the document to your paper or to yourself. I'm not very sure about that. And that was the elusive document that was being looked for. The document that was presented to the president is available in the party files.
So why would your leaders come to us to look for a document that they have?
I have no idea which leader it is, but I certainly don't think that it is a leader within the Presidium, because the Presidium is very much aware of that document.
We have had an opportunity to look at that document, but would you want to discuss the contents of that document?
Well, yes. The document talks about the procedural issues as we see them. It is a proposal that we make, and we make proposals about timelines. We make proposals about the topics, the general topics, the themes to be covered by the dialogue, and that's as far as I can go, because it is to be responded to, it will be unfair for us to go to the substance of the document before it is responded to.
But in your document, you make a different proposal in terms of dialogue. You don't want to join Pollard. Why is that?
No. We do not say that in our document. We do not say that in our document. Now, here is the issue about Pollard. The Pollard is established in terms of a constitutive document called the Code of Conduct. And it says that the Pollard is available only to political actors. And it goes on to define a political actor as a person who stood for election as a presidential candidate in 2018. That disqualifies a person like myself. That disqualifies, let's say, in the event that President Mnangagwa is not there, and one of his and his deputy, let's say General Chiwenga, takes over. General Chiwenga does not qualify to be in Pollard. That's how awkwardly the constitution of Pollard was written. And that is why you have not seen us in Pollard. It is because the document itself does not allow us. Now, as a lawyer, I know that if you go to a meeting where you have no status, your submissions equally have no status. And we thought it's not a wise thing to do that.
But your Vice President, Thokozani Kupe, who remains party off, in your structures, was a presidential candidate. So the MDCT family would equally...
We don't do that. We don't do that, Mr. Mhlanga. Other political parties will be represented by their very top leader, their president. And why should the MDCT be represented by a vice president?
But the NP, but Lucia Matuenga was not the presidential candidate, but she sits in there.
I have no knowledge of that.
I have. I'm giving it to you.
I have no knowledge of what her considerations are. I am a lawyer, and I'm telling you that if I go to a meeting where I have no status, in terms of the constitutive document, my submissions equally will not have status. That's the way I look at things. How Mrs. Matuenga looked at it is another issue. But we are fortified as the MDCT that the Pollard Avenue will be difficult for us, especially in the view that we do not qualify in terms of its constitution. It's a legal issue.
But you propose to take your discussion to Parliament in your document.
I'm not so very sure about that. I'm not so sure whether you read the correct document or not. As I said to you,
I read the one that you submitted to State House.
Certainly, I don't think you read that because you are definitely fishing. And I said to you that I am not comfortable with discussing the entire document, the substance of the document, except for the heads that I have already said that there are procedural issues that are there. And it will only be fair that we discuss the substance of this once the other parties responded. Why? Because if we started discussing now, we are negotiating in the press, we are negotiating in public, and that is unfair. So the president has said that they are going to respond, and we are going to see what their response is going to be.
Do you trust ZANU-PF and its leadership?
It's not whether I trust ZANU-PF or not. In fact, trust is a very relative term. You can ask me whether I trust fellow comrades within the opposition or within my own party for that matter, and so on. It is a relative,
do you trust comrades in your own party?
It is a relative term. As I say, it's a relative term. What is important is that we should act in the best interest of the country. Now, what the president has told me is that they are going to respond. It is that response that will tell me whether I should repose my trust in them or not. He said he's going to respond. If he responds, I will trust his answer that he's going to respond. Now, the substance of the response is another issue. So I'm waiting for that.
In going forward as the MDC, looking at the political environment in Zimbabwe, do you think that there is change that you can put faith in negotiation and discussion?
Negotiations has worked before in Zimbabwe.
I'm talking about the environment currently.
No. Dialogue has happened in Zimbabwe in worse environments. For example, the War of Liberation ended with negotiations at Lancaster House within the context of deadly armed conflict, and the negotiations worked. The Matebeleland, the Gukurahundi, again, negotiations took place, culminating in the signing of the Unity Accord, and that was good for the people of Zimbabwe at that point in time. In 2008, we had negotiations that took place within the context of a very acrimonious situation. 300 of our youngsters in the MDC had been murdered in cold blood. Negotiations took place, and they culminated in something good, the global political agreement, which culminated in the establishment of the government of national unity. Now, under these circumstances, negotiation can still take place and yield a good result.
What is your disagreement with ZANU-PF?
It requires for us to have sufficient political will. Now, I have read. I don't want you to put Chamisa's arguments to me, and I'll respond to them as if I'm responding to Chamisa. And Chamisa says that Mwonzora has no disagreement with ZANU-PF, and therefore he should not dialogue with it.
No, but that's not my question. That is not my question. My question to you.
Acting as a proxy of someone.
No. I'm asking you a clear question.
That was put by Mr. Chamisa.
No, I am asking you. Mr. Chamisa is not here.
It deserves an answer.
No, but President, if you want to respond to Nelson Chamisa, you can call him. I'm sure you've got his number. My question to you is very simple, President Mwonzora. What disagreement do you have with ZANU-PF?
I am not happy with the way it is run the economy. I am not happy with the human rights record. I am not in agreement with certain of its policies, the economic policies that it has put forward. I do not agree with the governance issues, the removal of certain important clauses within the Constitution. I don't agree with that. I do not agree with ZANU-PF that there should not be truth-telling. If you look at the current bill that we are doing, the public complaints, I think it has to do with public complaints against
the military,
the military security establishment. It proposes to have a cut-off date which is 3 years, and yet we know that there were people murdered in Gukurahundi. There were people murdered in 2008, just as an example. And this bill then disqualifies complaints from that. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with quite a lot of what ZANU-PF has done. And in fact, I hope people know this. I am the longest serving member of the opposition in this country.
So do you think dialogue is the one that will solve these agreements, or an election where you win power?
Now, I think dialogue will resolve most of these agreements, most of these problems. Remember that this dialogue also deals with evening the playing field for the election. For example, I am going to be pushing, if I get the opportunity in the dialogue, for the diaspora vote, which is not there at this point in time. I don't get the diaspora vote through an election. I get the diaspora vote through negotiating for it, so that the people in the diaspora, about the 4 million people who are in the diaspora, vote in this election. That is the wisdom of dialogue. Now, if we go to an election without reforms, we are basically doing the same thing and expecting a different result. And I don't think there's wisdom in it. Dialogue has worked on 3 historic occasions in this country. It can work on the 4th.
We have seen that whilst you're talking about this dialogue and going towards 2023, your political opponent, I'm sure, would be ZANU-PF, because they are the ones in power. They're busy consolidating power. They've consolidated power in the constitutional amendments that just came through. Do you think in that environment they can concede to issues that will allow them to lose power?
I think you overstate the consolidation of power in the amendment. The amendment simply raises the presidential, the age of the Chief Justice, if we can simplify it that way, from 70 years to 75. Now, I have seen my friends within the opposition bashing Honorable Justice Malaba, as if Honorable Justice Malaba was the cause of the loss of the election petition. The election petition that Nelson Chamisa, the MDC Alliance, which included myself, brought before the Supreme Court, the Constitutional Court, was banned.
Why did you do that?
Well, I advised against it because we did not have sufficient information to mount a challenge. Look at the election petition in Malawi, for example, the election petition in Kenya, for example, and you look at the standard of the paperwork that was presented before the judge. It wasn't Malaba's fault. It was the fault of the legal team and the people who instructed the legal team. Now, if you lose and then you spend all your time on a judge and you forget...
What is so special about this judge that would invest a whole law to keep him in office?
And forget, there is one important thing that the MDC must acknowledge. It is that Justice Malaba, in the context of a challenge by Morgan Tsvangirai, had the courage of making a dissenting judgment in favor of the MDCT. And if you look at the press, when he was being installed as the Chief Justice, look at the comments by the MDC, look at the comments by Tendai Biti, look at the comments by most of these lawyers. Now, I am not defending that Justice Malaba must remain. I have made that argument in the Senate that it is bad law to extend a term of office to accommodate one person. I have made that point.
But you are defending right now.
No. I'm saying that it is not. We should not spend too much time on that and look at it as a consolidation of power.
Is it not?
After all, the main litigant has withdrawn part of his application against Chief Justice Malaba, is he not? And why have they done that? So the point I'm making is that you overestimate that this is a consolidation of power. It is not. What consolidates power, in my view, is to entrench the rights of women, to entrench the women's quota, to entrench the youth quota, to entrench devolution. That is what consolidates people power. What you are saying, I think you are looking at the hard power and so on. So power has 2 different dimensions. There's the people power and the hard brute power. Now, which one do you want?
But the judiciary is the last bulwark of any democracy in any world. And where one appears to be controlling the judiciary, they surely have entrenched themselves in power.
Well,
I mean, that's simple maths, is it?
Mr. Mhlanga, you are making a mistake. The state is made up of 3 arms. There is the executive, there is the judiciary, and the legislature. The fact of the matter is that ZANU-PF is in charge of the executive, it is in charge of the legislature. The appointment of judges will wait for the in the appointment system, there is where the president will have to exercise discretion. It is there. It is a fact of life. So when it happens like this, you should not overblow it as a consolidation of power. It is still possible to win elections with the current judges. The judges are not the people who determine the election. We should not wait for us to go to a court after elections. We must.
It's not about only winning elections.
We must win elections one time at the ballot paper, and that's what.
But President Mwonzora, as a lawyer, the issue is not about an election petition, is it? It is about the entire process, the cycle of elections. When you go and argue for the diaspora, when you went to argue for the diaspora vote, for instance, in the court, that was not an election petition. You lost that.
Yes.
And you were unhappy with the arguments that were put by the judiciary when they ruled against you. You have had people who have been arrested, being denied bail. And that has been seen, as you said, that you're unhappy with the human rights abuse. That has been seen as human rights abuse.
Well, Mr. Mhlanga, what is important is that judicial independence is not measured by whether the judiciary makes a judgment in your favor or against you. That's not the measure of judicial independence. The measure of judicial independence is whether the judges, whether they make a correct or wrong judgment, have exercised their minds judiciously on a matter. It may be a matter whose outcome we don't like. That is the fact of life. I have been a lawyer for 33 years now, and I can tell you that there are certain judgments that I have found outrageous, the reasoning by the judge being so outrageous, being so bad. But that doesn't mean that there is no judicial independence. It means that my arguments is found in no favor with the judges.
Justice Ndewere has said there is no judicial independence. The Minister of Justice in this country has said the judiciary are captured.
I have no knowledge of that.
You never saw the statement that he released? You never read it?
No, I did not. I am not privy to what Justice Ndewere has said. I'm not privy to that. What I know from reading from the press is that a tribunal was established to try her, and that its results are out and they are not favorable to her. That one I have seen.
Are you still the same Douglas Mwonzora that was there?
I have seen the statement that was made by Minister Ziyambi after they lost in the Malaba case. And I did respond to that. And my response was that attack on the judiciary is uncalled for, and that the minister must withdraw that. I did that publicly on Twitter. I issued a statement following that Twitter. So my views on the bashing of the judiciary are well known and they are documented. I said that it was the right of the judges, the 3 judges, Justice Joe, Mushore, and I think Charewa, to make a judgment as they saw fit. They applied their minds. Their application did not find favor with the minister, and the minister had the right to appeal. So why bash the judiciary? I am against that as a constitution maker.
Justice should not only be done, it should be seen to be done. In this instance, do you think justice is being seen to be done?
In which case?
In the Malaba case, in the bashing of the judiciary,
You see,
when a whole minister of justice says that it is time to poke the enemy in the eye.
That was very wrong, and that is why I issued the Twitter statement.
And after a week of that statement, this person is promoted into the highest decision-making body of a party that you are engaging in negotiations with?
Mr.
Do you trust them?
When you negotiate people with in negotiation, it doesn't mean that you approve of what they do. Mugabe talked to Smith. It doesn't mean that Mugabe liked what Smith was doing. Mugabe talked to Tsvangirai. Tsvangirai talked to Mugabe, sorry, in 2008 and 2009 and 9. It doesn't mean that he approved what they were doing. Negotiations, dialogue have nothing to do with whether you approve of the other guy or not. It is because there is a commonality of issues that you must tackle. You realize that the other party is a stakeholder, whether wrong or right, is a stakeholder. And its fact of the matter is that ZANU-PF is a stakeholder, MDC is a stakeholder, and we must talk. The substitute for that is acrimony, hate, violence, and so on. We don't think that is a proper thing to do. And I've said to you that I don't approve what the minister did, what the minister said about the judges. And I am on record of voicing my unhappiness with it. But you may want to know that I did physically talk to the minister myself and said I thought that it was wrong.
And he has never apologized?
Well, when I talked to him, we agreed that that was not the best thing for him to do. But what he has done or not done now, I don't know. But the fact of the matter is, bashing the judiciary because they've made judgment against you is wrong. But you see, Blessed, with the exception of probably myself and my party, other political parties bash the judiciary when they lose. Chamisa has done it.
You have done it in the past as well.
BT has done it. It is wrong to bash the.
But you have done it in the past as well.
In which case?
In a number of instances, when you lost, for instance, the diaspora vote, you didn't have nice words to say about the judiciary.
I did not bash the judiciary. I simply voiced my displeasure with the judgment. It is allowed. But to call judges names because you have lost a case is wrong. To criticize them for the judgment is correct. And I have criticized. I have not called the judges names. Now, Tendai BT has, Chamisa has, Mbare has, Ziambi has done that. And some members in ZANU-PF have done that. That is wrong. But it is wrong and duplicitous for my friends in the opposition to blame the minister only and forget what they do as well.
But you would understand the differences of the power play here, wouldn't you?
Sorry?
I said you'd understand the differences of the power play. If you are going to bash the judiciary, I would probably understand. Not a whole minister of justice.
Bashing the judiciary is wrong.
But there's a difference. Let us agree on this aspect here.
No, we don't agree because you seem to underplay the enormous responsibility of senior lawyers within the opposition. They are not ordinary people. Tendai BT is not an ordinary person. He is a former minister of finance in the country. He is a senior lawyer. You see, Nelson Chamisa is heading a political organization in this country. He is a losing presidential candidate according to the figures. That puts him in a position of responsibility. These people.
You are equating this responsibility.
The minister is in the position of responsibility. The point I'm saying is that
the minister superintends over. Look, I am asking from an ordinary person on the street. You are the Reserve Bank governor of this country versus an opposition leader. A Reserve Bank governor of this country says our money has no value. Who would you listen to? Chamisa says the money has no value. The Reserve Bank governor minister says the money has no value. Is that the same statement?
They are talking the same thing according to analogy.
No, but I'm saying, do they carry the statements? Do they carry the same value?
The point I'm making is, it is wrong for anyone to bash the judiciary.
But I'm asking you, aren't you putting a false equivalence? Of course it's wrong, let's agree, but aren't you putting a false equivalence?
The minister bashed the judiciary
and I issued a statement against it. And I physically met him and voiced my displeasure as a parliamentarian and as an opposition leader. I didn't issue the same statement when Tendai Biti did it, because this one is the Minister of Justice. This one is a senior lawyer.
Now we agree.
But there is no justification.
Now, we never said went there.
No
Yes.
justification. You are trying to protect people.
No, I'm trying to get you to discuss issues of those in power, because my role as a journalist is to ask matters that ask on issues of power.
Exactly.
Yes, and you are deflecting to the opposition. I am asking you directly on government level.
The government was wrong.
Okay.
And I've said that time without number. The government was wrong. The Minister of Justice was wrong. And I issued a statement to that effect. And I'm happy to say I was not the only one who did that. Most senior legal minds in this country issued a similar statement. But I'm saying that we must also look at ourselves honestly as the opposition. If we bash the same judiciary, every time it has made judgments against us, it is wrong. So the minister was wrong. My colleagues within the opposition are also wrong.
But why do you want to have the equivalence?
They are wrong. They are wrong.
Why is it every time I ask you something about government, you turn to Nelson Chamisa?
No. I haven't turned to Nelson Chamisa.
I asked you about what issues you have with negotiation with ZANU-PF, you turned to Nelson Chamisa. I asked you about Malaba, you turned to Nelson Chamisa.
You are wrong. You asked me what I disagree
with ZANU-PF. Yes.
And I told you.
You turned to Nelson Chamisa first.
No, I did not. I did not. You can play back your.
But anyway, as we in closing, what do you think is Zimbabwe's way forward?
There is absolutely no doubt that for Zimbabwe to move forward, it must engage in dialogue. The political actors in this country, they must find each other in dialogue, and this dialogue must be inclusive, unconditional, and genuine. And this dialogue must be focused on changing the lives of the Zimbabwean people for the better. In doing this dialogue, there is no wisdom in some actors trying to disqualify other people from dialogue. There is need for selflessness, self-sacrifice, and abnegation. There is need for tolerance. There is need for focus. There is need to relegate personal interests for the common good. Once we do that, and we remove this mentality, this mentality of fighting every time, and we engage in the mentality of dialogue and tolerance, we deal with attitudinal issues. And attitudinal issues are important in this country. It has turned out. And we will be able to listen to one another. We will be able to resolve the problems of this country together. Zimbabwe has a lot of problems: poverty, unemployment, the issues of social security, the erosion of the pensions, the governance issues, human rights issues, the issues of the electoral reforms, marginalization of women, the youth, and so on. We need to deal with this together. But I find it offensive for a political leader to try to disqualify other people from dialogue.
Do you think you will win 2023 election, presidential election?
Without doubt, I will. And let me say here that my history speaks for itself. Many times
you will beat
I have been underestimated.
You will beat Emerson Mnangagwa.
Why not? Why not beat Emerson Mnangagwa? Why can I not beat Chamisa? Why can I not?
There you go again. You've gone to Chamisa.
Yes, because these are the contenders, are they not?
He's not in power. I'm talking about removing someone in power.
You said beating. When we go to the election, I will beat the contenders. And the contenders will include whoever ZANU-PF puts in, whoever Chamisa's party puts in. I will beat them. And I have beaten them before. Why can I not repeat the same feat?
You are presupposing that you are going to win your party congress.
Yes.
It's a foregone conclusion?
I'm going to win that congress. I'm going to win it by more than 70%. This is not the first time that I've predicted my own win. In 2014, when we went to the MDCT Congress, I predicted that I was going to beat Nelson Chamisa by 1,000 votes. I beat him by 859 votes. In this Congress, the 2020 Congress, 27 December, I predicted that I was going to win by 70% the first week. The second week, you asked me the same question, and I told you that I was going to win by 75%. I went on to win by 80%. And I'm telling you that I am predicting that I will win. All this hate that you see, all this bashing that you see, you will see how it will transform when we deal with it.
Prophet,
we have a plan. We have a plan. We are confident. We are not arrogant, but we are confident that a surprise awaits my opponents. I will beat them.
Prophet Mwonzora, which percentage are you going to win the presidential election with?
I think 66% as of now.
Who will share the other?
I don't know. They will discuss. Well, but we are aiming at winning this election. We want to take over government power through peaceful, democratic, and constitutional means. And I do not in any way see myself as an inferior leader at all. I don't see the superiority that my opponents have over me. And it's an open contest. But what is important is what you are not going to see from me. You are not going to hear hate language. You are not going to hear me calling people names. That's not my style. I leave it to others.
I'll give you an opportunity to just, in a brief statement, maybe just before that, when are you going to hold your Congress?
We will know today. Fortunately, we have a national council today. We are holding it virtually. It's one of the things that I'm going to put before the national council. Of course, the complicating factor is the COVID situation, but we want to have our Congress as soon as possible. So that we regularize things within the party. We need to stabilize the party and so on. We also need people to choose leaders that they want. And this Congress now is going to start from the branches, the wards, the districts, the provinces, up to the national, ending with the election of president, of course.
Which you will win?
Yes, I will win.
What sort of government would you want to have?
I will probably want an inclusive one. It is within my plans that if I was to win, I would surprise quite a lot of people by the nature of my cabinet. I will have an inclusive government, an inclusive cabinet, just like what Robert Mugabe did in 1980. You see, he had ministers from the Rhodesia Front, he had ministers from ZAPU, ministers from ZANU-PF. And that is what is important. I know we are fighting, but this is a passing phase. We are brothers, we are sisters. There is no need of all this that is happening. It's not a matter of life and death. Chamisa in power, Mwonzora in power shouldn't matter.
What size of cabinet would you look at?
It will not be a very small one. I think I just off the cuff about 34, 35 ministers that should do. But you may also look at the need for inclusivity and efficiency as well. Sometimes you have ministries too much rolled into one, and I don't think that is necessary. But it will have to be an inclusive.
What would be the major thing you would want to change?
The first thing is to deal with the economy. And in dealing with the economy, you have to deal with the international relations. Do those things that will make the international community engage Zimbabwe.
I will open up on the human rights situation, on democracy and so on. It will be an open society. Of course, police, army, CIO come in to curb the excesses. When people are given freedom, some tend to abuse it. Those are the people that will be targeted. But regarding every Zimbabwean, they must be free.
And on the judiciary front, do you think that there's anything that needs to be done to ensure that there is a confidence again in the judiciary by the ordinary Zimbabweans?
Yes, the executive itself, starting with the president, must respect the judiciary. There is unfortunately the image that there is paternalism. I know the Americans did it the other time when one of the presidents pegged the Supreme Court with the judges of his choice. That is wrong. There is need for continuity, yes. There are certain judges who have done very well. You have judges like Justice Joe. He's a very good judge. He's intelligent. And he made a judgment which was predictable. And a judgment which I had warned the minister that such a judgment would come. And the minister was arrogant, I think. But we will deal with the judiciary. First of all, it has to be respected. It has to be the funding of the judiciary must be different. Now, the problem with now, you see the judiciary under Mugabe, they were given farms, they would be given coupons from the Reserve Bank, they would be given cars from Gideon Gono and so on. That's compromising the judges. Yeah, and the bashing. If I was, if Minister Ziyambi was a minister under my government, I would have fired him for that comment because that's uncalled for.
Your compatriot has promoted him either. He's now in the Politburo.
Well, I don't know the factors that he looked at.
He's not fired. He's now in the Politburo.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't see the wisdom in that. But maybe he knows why. You see, because there are a lot of things that are happening in ZANU-PF, I think. The issue of what looks like the tribal balancing, the tribal dynamics within ZANU-PF. I'm not so sure, but it looks like there are factors like that. Individual loyalty, need to strengthen this camp and that camp. Those are things that I want to get rid of.
Okay, but there's this issue around political parties and stuff like that. You fighting with Nelson Chamisa, MDCT, MDC Alliance. How do we get to a point in Zimbabwe where politics becomes about people and not about power?
Yeah. The most important thing right now, I think, in this fight, okay, the fight has happened, but in this fight, I think Chamisa's camp is wrong because they have continued to be on a war path against an individual. Day in, day out, Ruhanya is talking about Mwonzora and propaganda and so on. It hardly creates a conducive environment for re-engagement.
But you said earlier on people have spoken in Wesa environments. So this is this the West one?
Yeah, but look, I have extended olive branch on more than 3 occasions. First, when we met at the funeral of that Senator Rambanapas, and I said something which was construed by people to be a conciliatory note towards Mr. Chamisa. The following morning, Jameson Timber was asking for my head to be examined. Fadzai Mahere was going on a tangent of her own. And the second is when we were talking about dialogue. And I was asked, what would be your attitude towards Chamisa joining the dialogue? And my attitude was that he is welcome. And his statement was that he wants dialogue without Mwonzora, and so on. And the spokesperson went on to describe me as ZANU-PF Secretary for Opposition Affairs. Now, that name calling is hardly conducive to discussions. The fact of the matter is that I have tied all the legal issues around the leadership.
But politics is not about law, is it?
Well, law helps in politics.
But it's about the people.
Don't ignore law.
It's different from a company. If I hold a share certificate, there's nothing you can do.
If I have both the law and the people, then we have a problem. You must always balance the two, right? Right now, I heard people say that we do not have support and so on. That's not what we are seeing on the ground.
To be tested at elections, was it?
It will be tested at elections, and definitely it's foreseeable that I'll score more than what Kupe did, more than what Simbamakon did. I am a factor, and I'm 6 months old in the leadership, and so on. God knows what will happen, because these things that are happening, the turbulence, is not happening only in the MDCT. In the Chamisa's party, I am aware of things that are happening there. How they will pan out, we don't know. But I think also one of their problems, and this is the main issue for me, is the G40, especially Jonathan. He is no longer somebody you really need in modern politics in Zimbabwe anymore. He is an intelligent man, and so on and so forth. I think he's past his prime. Look at his post, it's only 8, and so on and so forth. It will have its limit. I know that this propaganda will have its limit. And all I need to do is to do one act. And the people of Zimbabwe say, oh.
So you say you are strategic, consistent, and what else?
Yeah, I think I'm strategic. I think I'm consistent, and also that I'm not prejudiced. I don't hate. So my reasoning is pure, and it's not clouded. I see my colleagues get their reasoning very, very clouded. There is no need. I mean, right now, political competition is there. Let's allow political competition. And if my colleague wins, let him win. They don't win by trying to bash me every time.
Thank you very much.
They win by attracting people. Why is it that there is so much obsession?
Thank you. I'll ask you to just a message of your choice to the people of Zimbabwe.
To the people of Zimbabwe, the government right now has announced more stricter measures to control the COVID-19 pandemic. We urge all our people to follow these protocols, to follow these directives, because this disease is there, this disease is deadly. We also call upon all Zimbabweans to take advantage of the vaccines that have come. We hear from the government that there is a vaccine that came from Russia, and so on. We urge our people to be vaccinated, because it is the only responsible thing to do. We are happy that so far we have been able as a country to contain this disease. We are engaging in dialogue. We are trying to kickstart dialogue. Why we are doing this dialogue is because we want the lives of the Zimbabwean people to change for the better. This dialogue must not be about individual political party leaders. It must be about the people of Zimbabwe. We know that many Zimbabweans are wallowing in poverty, misery, and unemployment. We know that some of Zimbabweans are marginalized in their communities, as well as on the basis of gender and age, the youth and the women. They must take their part, their correct part in the affairs of the nation. We believe that the youth are not leaders of tomorrow; they are leaders of today. We want to urge our Zimbabweans to shun all hate, intolerance, and violence. And we want to promise Zimbabweans within the diaspora that we are fighting for their right to vote. Zimbabweans must never be disenfranchised. We want Zimbabweans, all Zimbabweans, no matter where situated in the world, to be able to have a say in the affairs of their nation. And to my political opponents, there is no need for us to engage in hate language. We must respect one another, we must love one another, and we must compete in peace.
Thank you very much for joining us, President of the MDCT, Douglas Mwonzora. We were having this conversation on the future of Zimbabwe, dialogue, and how to change the politics of this nation to a better place. Now, we at Heart and Soul TV and Radio are the alternative voice. We believe that people should talk to each other. We believe that this is the platform for convergence of ideas and turning our nation into a better place. Thank you for choosing us and thank you for joining us. Until next time, I am your host, Dara Blessed Mhlanga. Ciao.